What's it been for you? What's the next level for you? And what's been holding you back? Give her a hand. Oh, give her a hand for God's sake. What's your name? Where are you from?
I'm Stella from Brazil.
From Brazil. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Just wanna make you sweat.
So Stella, tell me, what's the story that keeps you going from the next level?
I think pretty much I'm so busy with everything, my home, my businesses, and my family, my son. So finding time is very difficult.
How many of you got a story about time and all the things you got to do? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up. Look around the room. How many of you got a story about time? And here's the crazy thing about time. It's the only thing on the planet that's equal. Bill Gates does not get any more hours a day than you do. It's the only thing that's equal. There's nothing else in the world that's equal except time. So what happens is when you say, I have no time, I got too many things going, I got too many responsibilities, when you keep telling that story to yourself, you believe it, and once you believe it, that's all you see. Right? Try something for a moment. Look around this room and find everything in this room that is brown as fast as you can. Find everything that's brown. I'm going to test you. Look behind you, look around you. There's brown people, brown hair, brown things. Look all around. Find the brown, find the brown. Okay, close your eyes. With your eyes closed, tell me everything you saw that's red. If you saw much more brown than red, say I. Open your eyes and look for red now. Look everywhere you can for red. Look for red, look for red, look for red, look for red, look for red. Yes? How many see a lot more red this time? Raise your hand, say I. Why do you see more red this time? Because ask and you shall, seek and you shall. Those rules I didn't make up, those are in the good book and they're real. In fact, I'll prove it to you. Whatever you look for, you'll find even if it's not there. I'll prove it to you. How many saw beige shit, called it brown just so you could feel successful? Let me see your hands. How many saw burgundy, called it red, just so you could score a higher point? Let me see your show of hands. So what I want you to get is, whatever you look for, that's what you're gonna find. So once you tell yourself a story, like for example, have you ever been remember being a kid, and maybe you're having lunch or dinner, and you're hungry and you're eating, and your mom or dad or somebody says, could you get me the salt? And you're enjoying your meal, so you say, I don't know where the salt is. You're not lying. You don't know the exact GPS coordinate in this moment. And your parents go, you know where it is. It's in the kitchen. Go get it. And you go, I don't know where the salt is. You go, you get it right now. And so what do you do in your head? I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the damn salt is. You look in the cupboard. It's not here. Your mother or father says it's on the second shelf. You go, I don't know where the salt is. You really look. I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt. It's not here. They walk right beside you, they reach right in front of your face, and they go, what is this? Who's had one of these experiences or something like it? Say I. Here's my question. Did your eyes see the salt? Yes, your eyes saw the salt, but your mind wouldn't let you perceive it because you kept telling yourself a story over and over. I don't know what the salt is, I don't know what the salt is, I don't know what the salt is. You do that enough times with enough intensity, and you convince yourself, and now your brain creates a blind spot. It's called a scotoma. Now you can't even see what's right in front of you. Who's experienced this before, so you know what I'm talking about here? Say I. What you should know about your story is this. The only thing keeping you from getting what you really want, the only thing keeping you from getting what you really want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you haven't achieved it. The only thing keeping you from achieving what you want is the story you keep telling yourself. I'm gonna do it later, I'm gonna do it soon, I'm not old enough, when I have more money, whatever your story is. Just write down this phrase, just write down, divorce your story and marry the truth. Divorce your story of limitation and marry the truth of your true capability. If you come up with a new story, you'll have a new life. And what you have to become aware of in your business is people have stories, and if you can learn how to short circuit those stories and bring truth to that person, you can blow open any limitation you have. So how many can see that often the strategy might be in front of you, but you can't see it because your story keeps you from seeing it? How many see what I'm talking about here? Say I. And then the last one, the third key to a breakthrough, is if you have a strategy, that's nice. But you need a story that empowers you, a belief structure that's going to get you to follow through. But the most important way, like if someone comes to you and goes, well, you have a limiting story, people aren't going to listen to that. The most important one of the three elements that creates a breakthrough is state, the thing I started with. Because your emotional state will affect your story. I'll give you a perfect example. Have you ever been pissed off at somebody and then suddenly you can remember everything they've ever done that's ever pissed you off in your life? Who knows what I'm talking about here? Or better yet, who here can remember a time when you were head over heels in love? Raise your hand if you can remember a time head over heels in love. Great. Make the sound that you make a sound of being head over heels in love. Just make it out loud. Make a sound. Wow, that was pathetic. That was really bad. Some of you, it's been a long time, clearly. Let's try it again. Make the sound of what it's like when you're head over heels in love and lust. Make the sound. Go. And by the way, when you're in love with somebody, what will you do for them? What will you do? What will you do? If they say, will you take out the trash? Will you take out the trash? What else would you like? Right? But after 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years, maybe 70 years, somewhere in that range, they say, could you take out the trash? You go, what do I look like, your janitor? You go, I don't know what it is. We used to have so much passion. Why did it disappear? I'll give you a clue. If you do what you did in the beginning of the relationship, at the end of the relationship, there won't be an end. I'll say it again. In the beginning of the relationship, what would you do? Your whole focus was what? Was it how do I get something from them? What was it? How do I give? How do I light them up? How to make them feel more joyous, more happy? If you did what you did in the beginning, at the end, there won't be an end. So state is the most important element of all. If you leave this night with nothing else and say, how am I going to grow my business? The most powerful way you can grow your business is decide that you're going to live in a beautiful state of mind every day, no matter what, even when it doesn't go your way. See, if you take this on, what I'm telling you right now, it'll change your life more than anything else, and it'll change your business. If you would have asked me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, like, what does everybody want? How many of you in this room want to change your business, take it to another level? How many came because that's a big piece for you? Make more money, grow your business. Say I. Okay, most people. How many of you came here because you want to have more energy, more vitality, more strength? You want to transform yourself emotionally or physically? How many got those on your list? Say I. How many of you want to create a passionate relationship or reignite one? So who's got that on your list? Say I. You greedy bastards, you wanted everything and you gave me 3 hours. What were you thinking? But here's what I can tell you. Everything you say you want could be chunked up to one thing. Tell me if I'm wrong. How many of you in this room, no matter how great your life is, you want an even greater quality of life than you have today? Say I. So what is a greater quality of life? I would suggest to you it's life on your terms. Some people's idea of an extraordinary life is 3 beautiful children. Some people's idea of extraordinary life is writing poetry. Some people's idea of extraordinary life is a garden. Some people's idea of extraordinary life is a multi-billion-dollar business. Everyone has a different idea of what will light them up. And if you can figure out what that is, then you need 2 skills to master to get there. Let me give them to you real quick, and I'll wrap up with this invitation to you. Number 1 skill for having life on your terms, extraordinary life, is you must master the science of achievement. The science of achievement. And when I say science of achievement, notice I said it's a science. So, I just spent 5 years, as I told you, interviewed 50 billionaires, all how they did it, how they invested, what they did. And what I learned from them has made me tens of millions of dollars in just the last few years alone, $100 million, $200 million in one transaction alone by what I learned from them. Because I didn't learn from the average person. I went to the best that exists on the place of the planet and said, how do I take that person? How do I learn from that person? How do I figure out the strategy that that person has that can take me to the next level? So it's a science. It doesn't matter your color of your skin. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your age. There are certain rules of finance. If you apply them, you will have financial abundance. If you avoid them or if you ignore them, you will have financial pressure and pain. How many follow? Say I. There are rules. There's rules of the body, right? We're all biochemically different, but are there some universal rules that if you violate them, you're going to have dis-ease in your body. You're going to have low energy. Is it true? And there are other ones, if you align with them, you're going to have a maximum level of energy. And to me, energy is life, right? So it's a science. Now, I'm not going to try and cover this because I'm out of time, but the best way to speed up your science of achievement is do what you're doing here. Model someone who's already getting the result you want. Find someone who's already doing it, figure out what they're doing, save the time. And pretty much everything you've ever achieved in your life, you went through 3 steps. Number 1, you became obsessed. Think of something that's in your life today that once was a dream or a goal that seemed difficult or impossible. How many of you have something in your life today, a person, a relationship, a car, a career, a business, that once it seemed that would not happen, it once seemed difficult or impossible? How many got something like that in your life? Say I. Then the best way to achieve something is model what you've already done. Look at all the things you've created in your life that didn't exist before, that are exactly as you want them. And how did you do it? You got incredibly obsessed. You started to think about it. And when you think of something that you desire so much that you can't let it go, that's something you're going to achieve if you put your focus into it. Who can remember something like this that you got so obsessed by you thought about day and night? Who can relate to this in some way? Raise your hand and say, I. Now, once you're obsessed, that unleashes this energy, because wherever focus goes, energy flows, right? But the second key is really simple. What'd you do? Once you had all this drive and desire and hunger and it was so strong, how many of you took some form of massive action? Raise your hand, say I. And you may not even know what to do. You may not know how to do it. But if you just take massive action and you try something and it doesn't work, what should you do? Try something else. And if that doesn't work, what do you do? And if that doesn't work, what do you do? What if that doesn't work, what do you do? And if that doesn't work, what do you do? How long would you give your average child to learn how to walk before you said, look, kid, you're never going to learn, just give this shit up? You go, were you crazy? My kid's going to keep trying until they walk. Well, no wonder almost everybody walks. Because people take massive action, but they also keep changing their approach until they get there. So second key to achievement, after you're obsessed and you're focused and you give it all your energy, it's taking massive action and finding effective execution. And the way you find it is keep changing, or the way you find it is model someone who's already got it and save yourself the time. Does that make sense? How many have done this already somewhere? You were obsessed, you didn't know how to do it, it came together, you took massive action, you got beautiful results. How many have done this here? Say I. It does take one more element. The third key, if you're totally focused on what you want, you put all your energy in what you want, not what you don't want. Most people are focused on what they don't want, so they get more of it. Focus, wherever focus goes, energy flows. If you know what you want, you're obsessed, you're taking massive action, you're modeling it, you're changing your approach, you're finding the effective way. The only other thing you need to achieve is some grace. Some people call it God. Some people call it luck. You can call it God or grace. But I can tell you one thing. In my own life, how many of you have had times in your life where as hard as you work, it felt like grace was there, like you were being guided, like it was beyond anything you did, like you were being blessed in that moment? Raise your hand if you've ever experienced this. Say I. The one thing I can tell you about grace is the more of it you acknowledge, the more of it you appreciate in your life, the more of it seems to show up. And most of our lives are filled with grace, but we get so busy in our lives, kind of like those ministers running across the person right there in front of them, because they're so caught up, they haven't slowed down to actually take in and appreciate what they do have. The more you appreciate what you do have, ironically, the greater the energy you have to be able to go after everything else. So achievement's pretty simple, but I want to finish tonight with my mission for you. The main reason I really came, because 3 hours is not a lot of time. How many have gotten a great deal of value tonight, by the way? Say I. I'm glad. I wish I could do more. I hope I'll see some of you at a full-blown seminar weekend sometime, because I go deep, not 3 hours. And the stuff you can imagine, we start doing it, it gets more and more immersed. But the last thing I want to point out, I said there were 2 skills. The science of achievement, and the second skill is not valued in our culture very much. But the second skill is more important than the first skill. And that is the art of fulfillment. The art of fulfillment. Now notice I didn't say the science of fulfillment, because what's going to fulfill you is different than the person next to you, even if they're your lover or your best friend or your brother or your sister. We all are fulfilled by different things, because if you want to know what fulfills human beings, you don't know what fulfills God. Go to the forest. What is the forest? It's filled with diversity. Look at this room. Look around you. Look at all the different kinds of people here. If you want to see if God has a sense of humor, let's just look at each other and you'll see God's sense of humor. We have is this beautiful diversity in this room? So here's what you got to get. What's going to fulfill you is different than the person next to you, and you got to discover what it is, because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I hear people tell me all the time, well, yeah, once I succeed, once I get there, don't worry, I'll be fulfilled. But then I get the phone call from the multi-billionaires, from the Academy Award winners, from the Grammy winners, from the people you would think would be the happiest humans on earth, who are miserable. I was just the other day, I got a phone call. I don't talk about people unless they talk about it publicly, so I won't tell you this person's name, but this person's a rapper, one of the biggest in the world, worth almost $1 billion, got more women than he could ever dream of in his lifetime, got more attention, got more money, got everything. Most miserable human being I've met in about 5 years. Because he's not appreciating it. He's achieving so much, but he's not fulfilled. And it's different for everybody. Steve Wynn, my buddy, I was just telling you, just saw today, who built half this town. I'll give you a perfect example of diversity of people's fulfillment. So I have a home in Sun Valley, Idaho, and so does Steve. And one day I get a phone call and Steve says, where are you in the world? And I said, I'm in Sun Valley. He goes, I'm in Sun Valley. And he goes, and it's my birthday. He says, come see me. I said, of course I'll come see you. He goes, but Tony, I want you to come today because I gave myself a gift. There's a painting that I've been coveting for 17 years, and I just outbid everybody at Sotheby's, and I bought it for $82 million. One painting. And he goes, you gotta see this painting. And I'm like, you're not kidding, I gotta see this painting. I'm on my way, man. I gotta see this $82 million painting. And I'm picturing that this painting is gonna be like a Rembrandt, like it's gonna be, I don't know, I pictured like the Mona Lisa. I don't know what I pictured. But I get to his house, he goes, check it out. And he points to the wall, and this is what's on the wall. Throw it up there, that's it. That's called a Rothko. It's $82 million. I looked at it, and I stopped breathing because I didn't know what the hell to say. So I finally said, Steve, it's a red frickin' square. I said, maybe they didn't tell you. It's a red square. I said, give me $100 worth of paints, and 20 minutes, I can duplicate this shit, I promise you. He did not like that since he spent $82 million. He goes, no, you understand, it's a Rothko. The guy that did this committed suicide. I said, well, that better be his blood for $82 million. I mean, what are you talking about? But the reason I bring it up is I'm not being disrespectful, I'm being respectful. Steve finds $82 million in value in that because he's much more sophisticated than I am. He sees brush strokes. I see some areas where they missed the paint. Who's with me out there, by the way? But he gets $82 million worth of value in his heart and soul looking at this thing. So what you got to get is that everyone is unique in what fulfills them, and you got to find what it is. Because if you don't, then everything you're doing right now and all the hard work, and then you'll finally get your goal, and you'll go, is this all there is? I'll give you a perfect example. 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, we lost what I consider to be a national treasure in this country, Robin Williams. How many of you in this room, you're from 50 countries, raise your hand if you don't raise your hand if you like Robin Williams, raise your hand if you loved Robin Williams, raise your hand. Keep your hand up nice and high, keep your hand up high, look around the room. It's 98% of the people, there's only 2% assholes in this room that hated Robin Williams. There's 2% assholes, 98% really beautiful people. But answer this question for me honestly. Was Robin Williams a master of achievement? Was he a master of the science of achievement, yes or no? And by the way, he went to Hollywood. How many people go to Hollywood and say, I'm gonna be a star? Everybody, this percentage does. He said, I'm gonna have my own TV show. Nobody gets their own TV show. He got his own TV show. Then he said, I'm gonna have the #1 show in America. Are there any of you as ancient as I am that actually can remember the name of that show? Mark and Mindy. Wow, a bunch of ancient people in this room, right? Mark and Mindy. So he has the #1 show, he's the #1 star, then he wanted to make more money than he could ever spend, which he did. Then he wanted to have a beautiful family that he loved, which he did. Then he said, TV's not enough, I want to make movies. Then he made movies and that was enough. He said, I want to win the Academy Award. Then he said, I want to win the Academy Award for not being funny. His #1 skill. He wanted to win it as a dramatic actor, and he did it. And he hung himself. He hung himself in his own home, where his wife and children had to discover his dead, hanging body. How do you explain that? It's really simple. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. He made everybody happy except whom? And he left. I've asked this question in the last year and a half. I've asked it in Sydney, Australia. I've asked it in Brazil. I've asked it in Tokyo, Japan. I've asked it in Beijing, China. I've asked it in London. I've asked it in the US. Everywhere I go, 95, 98% of people say they love this man. Hundreds of millions of people love this man. And it wasn't enough, he killed himself. And worse, he didn't just leave the planet, he left his children and his wife scarred for life. And he was a good man. I met him once. My birthday, I did a TED Talk, and the one I told you about, when people went crazy, became one of the most watched TED Talks. And so they took me to dinner that night, and it was my birthday, and all of a sudden, he shows up, Robin does, and he jumps on a table and starts singing to me as an old Jewish woman, and then a Russian man, and he just kept changing personalities. And I've never lost one suicide. I had no idea he was suicidal. If I would have known that, I think what could have been done. But maybe his story can wake us up. Because all that you're pursuing, $1 billion, $1 million, the largest downline, income for life where you don't have to work, it's all beautiful stuff and you all deserve it. But it is not going to make you happy. It will for a moment. How long? How long when you achieve your goal do you still feel excited about it? A week, a month, 2, 3 months, 6 months, and then it's not enough. That's because what you have to do is pursue the fulfillment. And I'll tell you what it takes to do that. Because it's not a science, it's an art. But there are a couple principles. I mentioned one earlier. In order to be fulfilled, you've got to grow. What do we say? What's the key word for happiness? It starts with a P. What is it? Progress equals happiness. If you just make progress, it's going to be there. So you got to grow or you're dying. If your relationship's not growing, it's dying. Don't bullshit yourself. If your business is not growing, it's dying. You better do something to start growing it. If you're not getting healthier and stronger, you're getting weaker. Is it true? There's no plateaus in life. But when we're making progress, even when we're not there yet, we're on fire. We're excited. Life is really, really beautiful. And then we grow so we can meet the second need, which is having something to contribute. Those 6 needs, growing and giving, those top 2 spiritual needs. Because when you grow and have something to give, now we feel more alive. How many of you, when something great happens,